Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are back with the SAPI IP Business Talks. Today, we have a very fascinating topic. I mean, it's a buzzword, isn't it? We talk about AI, so everybody's talking about AI. So we had a wonderful presentation here in Germany because Germany and France had decided to produce together a new main battle tank. And the German Minister of Defense explained why this new main battle tank is such a beautiful, wonderful, crazy thing. And he he was not able to avoid that this main battle tank, which I don't know, comes up in 2030 or something later, will have integrated artificial intelligence. So you can imagine what type of buzzword this is. And I'm happy to have an absolute expert for that topic today with me, and an expert together, AI application in patent information. So many people think patent information is for itself quite a complex issue. It is. Or let's say patent literature and then patent information. And then on top comes these artificial intelligence. So that doesn't make the things easier when we really want to understand what's going on. On the other hand, the promise of that thing is it becomes easier for the users to work with this patent information. That's what we want to talk about today. You are invited, ladies and gentlemen, dear audience. Please write us comments, write us questions which you would like to see in our discussion here. We are here for you. I'm absolutely happy to pick that up and to discuss that with Stefan when you are interested in it. And that now we come to Stefan. I would say, Stefan, you introduce yourself, because otherwise I miss something and say something stupid, and I'm doing that all the time. So it's better you do it on your own. Stefan, who are you and how did you came in that strange field of patents or IP?
Yeah, Alexander, thanks for inviting me today. Thanks. My goal for today is nothing less than making patent information to such a buzzword like artificial intelligence. I hope we will figure this out. Um, but I'm not convinced that we will reach this today. So what is my way that brought me today here? Since 2011, I do patent search nearly on a daily basis, which means between 2011 and 2018, I performed patent searches for law firms as well as for companies, more or less focused on classical mechanics, engineering, physics, and a little bit chemistry, but at least secondary. And during the years, I developed some, how should I say, some sense for patent literature, some sense for how you should read patent literature and how literature in the IP business is built up, how it is efficient and more convenient to find it. And in 2018, this career has gone to the next step when I started an apprenticeship to become a German and European patent attorney, which I meanwhile are, which means in Germany it's called patent assessor. Everybody knows this, which means, in other words, I do not work as a patent attorney, but altogether since 2011 I work in the IP industry, which means focused on technical IP, utility models, and patents. Why am I here? Why do I talk about artificial intelligence? In 2017, my co-founder, Konstantin Schmitz, and me, we asked ourselves, why is patent search something which is more or less a skill which you find only at quite good and experienced patent searchers? Why is it such a task which is, I always compare this like in former times in the mid age, if you were able to make a forecast for the weather, you were something like a hero. You were a godlike person, and this is 10
Or
years
even a
ago.
tree.
Or yeah, I mean, if you are able to find the so-called silver bullet patent for example, in an infringement process or in a novelty destroying process or position, whatever, it's like a special skill. And we asked ourselves in 2016, 2017, why? The first question was why? What is the complexity of patent search? Because, I mean, patent search, information retrieval, is just the first step of a process chain with the aim at the end to create value. I mean, patent search is, as you mentioned, not just a self-purpose. It's the purpose is to enable strategies to develop better technologies to prevent patent infringements and so on. The complexity and
To make decisions, right?
yes, of course. And the simple answer back then in 2017 was use AI, but it's not that simple. It's not. I mean, AI is not AI, and since 2017, we developed what we call something like guided search, which means we always want to bring together human intuition and artificial intelligence to make the best out of both worlds. And this is something I think which brought me today to this discussion. Yeah, so to make a long story short, since around about meanwhile 13 years I'm in the patent industry, and this is something which is probably you heard here for the first time. My heart is beating for patent information. This is just which sounds very dry, and I'm possibly the first and only person in the world, but it's that I really like to help organizations to work efficient with patent information.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I mean, that's a mission, isn't it? And at the end, I started my work many years ago. I would say more than 20 years ago in the as a patent searcher for the Fraunhofer Gesellschaft here in Munich. And so I started really a deep dive in the IP world with patent information. And I thought this is absolutely fascinating. What is there? What lies there? What could be done with it? And more coming into the practice of that, I learned that the potential which lies in is not really used. So for different reasons, as you said. How accessible is it really? How is it taken into account when it comes to decision? I mean, these very practical things are not that easy. And even when Bill Gates, some years ago, I think in the 90s, mid 90s, he promised us that we will have information at your fingertips. That's yeah, I mean, in the 90s, these internet thing was unbelievable. And even when it became reality many years later for the normal people, let's say in the 2000s, it was a fascinating world to get all that information. So when I started, we had Telnet, and I had to go to Fachinformationszentrum Karlsruhe to the mainframe computer to make my retrieval there. So that's a long time ago. And then in that time, you could really say somebody who was able to get that information is like a priest. So it is completely not understandable where that comes from. And it was a fascinating thing to have information from around the globe. But for the moment, I would like to focus on this new issue of AI, because now we have this AI-based search tools, also analytical tools. And you have one, you have developed one, you run such a thing, develop also even bigger and more on that topic. So the first question is, let when I simply assume we have the tool, okay, so it's there. I can imagine it like Gemini or ChatGPT or whatever. So I have a console and I can ask questions. So how would you say that this kind of tool could assist companies to tackle IP challenges? So how can that work when we have on the other side these enormous explosions still on patent applications? So the amount of patent literature out there is so growing, exploding. How can that help, really?
Yes. Thanks for this question, Alex. I think before we start to talk about how AI can specifically help users, we should first talk about in which step of the individual process AI helps. So in my picture, and this is something which we realized in Predori, is the journey starts with information retrieval. And you mentioned, for example, Gemini or other large language models. For information retrieval, large language models are, I wouldn't say useless, but this is not the intention of a large language model. This is just, it's just phrase completion in the technical sense, which prevents large language models from performing searches. So when we talk about AI in the field of patent search, we should start with the retrieval process. And information retrieval is completely different to information processing, which I will talk about in a minute. If we talk about retrieval, it's about AI that helps you to focus on the right technology field, AI that helps you to formulate a best matching query, or also possible if you use vector-based search engines to help the user to make as best matching as possible input. In other words, searching is not only finding, it's about information retrieval as a first step. And based on this, imagine you find the right documents, or you find the most matching documents, because also with AI, patent search is not an exact process. It's not that you can, in every case, always say, I found exactly the right documents and there's nothing left in the database. So, but if you find documents that
It's more
match,
it's more like an art and not a science, right?
it's an art, not a science. Of course, it is. But the second step is much more important, in my opinion, because if you find documents, it doesn't matter if you find them by yourself or you get them from an external patent searcher or whatever. Imagine your patent department delivers the 10 best matching documents into the R&D department, and then the engineer sits behind those documents and says, all right, I feel like I fall to death, because reading patents is like dying for most of the people. And this is exactly where large language models, and this is what you mentioned, come into play a role. I mean, not exactly, because you need to use them wisely, because large language models they tend to fabulate, to hallucinate in a certain way, and this is somehow prohibited in our IP industry. Imagine the large language models says, yes, this feature is included, but it's not. It's a difficult situation. But helping organizations to understand patent literature, because understanding is the first step to build up strategies, to build up development processes, to work around, to analyze, whatever. The value starts at the moment where people start to understand what's written in this patent literature. And this is exactly where AI can
That
be
is,
quite powerful.
yeah, that is exactly the problem, right? The practical problem, that in theory we have all that information at our fingertips, but it's simply too much. Or on the other hand, it is not just too much. It is not, sorted, not anyhow analyzed. It is just there, and that is, and given the very limited information processing capacities of human beings, we simply, and in addition, the time.
Exactly.
Who has the time to go all through that literature? It's simply no problem to block a very high level resource like an R&D manager with patent literature, and the consequence is that they will do that once, but no time again. So obviously, because this is the pure horror to go through the original patent literature. And
Exactly.
what you say, when I understand you right, is that it's not so much what you focus on is the question, where comes the literature from? This is one aspect, but the AI comes into play when the question is what we are doing with that bunch of information, and how can we create now valuable content out of that.
Exactly. One crucial step is to find the right documents. This is shit in, shit out. This is something which we learn when we talk about artificial intelligence. But as soon as you have the documents you need, it's always, the time is running, and this is what you mentioned. Time is the most critical resource we have, and you can, as you mentioned, you cannot block a developer for days by telling him or her, please go through this 20 documents. Other example, which is a quite good use case for artificial intelligence. You apply for a patent, and you get the first search report. There are the citations D1 to D5, only 5 documents. The time you need to go through these documents in order to understand them, in order to find out what is the common thing between my idea or invention and the patent which is cited by the patent office. It takes you hours, and AI helps you to bring this information processing process down to minutes, and this is quite valuable. This is where the story begins, because this is where efficiency starts in organizations.
Yeah, I got you. Let's. Oh, I would say that not everybody in the organization need the same time, or the same type of let's say, report or analytics, and the different, we make different kind of decisions based on patent literature. And who would you say who can benefit from having these, let's say, easy access patent information, these special reports which you could generate with AI? I would assume that this is not just the patent department, right?
Exactly. First of all, today I read your LinkedIn post on the different personas in organizations related to patents or related to IP. Thanks for this. Highly recommended from my side to all the listeners. And exactly, this is, I think this is part of the answer. You will never meet, never ever, I think so, never say never, but I say never, a product manager who's interested in patent statistics. They are interested in, am I allowed? They ask totally different questions. The engineer that is responsible for specific parts of a development asks, how is this related to my invention? Or the other way around. If he is an inventor himself, he asked, is my invention new? Is there anything which talks about how is this problem solved in other companies? These are the questions which definitely can be asked with patent literature. So the multiplicity of different questions and the multiplicity of different things you are interested in patent information in an organization is quite high. And for that reason, in order to bring everybody to the same knowledge base, you need AI that is able to answer the specific questions of different personas in an organization. And this is where value begins. I mean, nowadays we have tools for engineers, we have tools for patent professionals, we have tools for litigation, prosecution, and whatever, for search, for processing, for analytics. The story begins where we bring all those different approaches and interests in this information content to one common basis. And this is, in my opinion, definitely part of our future.
And do you recommend? I mean, the question which arises for me from a practical standpoint, do you recommend that all these people should have a training, should work anyhow with a piece of software on their computer? Or is your recommendation that there is a process in the company, how the different personas, how the different stakeholders of IP management, let's say, how they ask their questions and give it then to somebody who is then working with the machine? So how is your approach here?
I wouldn't do this in the way that you ask somebody who is able to ask the machine. And this is, I don't know the exact English word for this, but in Germany we say stille Post, which means information gets lost during communication.
Yeah.
For AI, generative AI, and for retrieval models and for well-trained AI models, there's no difference between the question, how is the problem solved, and what is the meaning of claim one in the light of the application. The first question is very broad, probably asked by product managers, innovation managers, developers. And the second question is more or less related to the IP department. So I think, yes, you need training, definitely. You will not use software without training, but the usability, and this is, and I understand your question into this direction. Usability plays a major role for artificial intelligence-based information retrieval tools like Predori, because to onboard every part of your organization into the knowledge base, into the common knowledge base, you need to assure that everybody is in the position to use this. So complex tools, 12,000 buttons, different monitors and complexity and so on. And this is something we will probably not see in the future for patent information tools, in my opinion. At least this is nothing we want to do with Predori.
No, I like that answer pretty much. Just one comment. Give me a second. Johannes, thank you very much for your comment or question, but this is very generic. Could you be a little bit more precise? And then I'm happy to pick that up and discuss that with Stefan, okay? So, Stefan, back to you. I mean, in some years ago, a software was a good one, or let's say a powerful one, when you received lots of thick books with the software. So Word or Excel that came with lots of books, and you could also buy another thick book in bookstores about uh, about about the same software. So you had a library of books, thousands of pages, which you have to read to make any usage out of your software. Okay, that was the logic, and the more expensive the software, the more books you received. So, and today we have the complete opposite paradigm. Today we say I'm buying an app in the app store, when it doesn't work after 2 or 3 or 5 minutes clicking, you get rid of it because it is not useful, it's not helpful. And when I understand you right, you follow this newer logic of it has to be simple even when it is that complex as patent literature.
Especially when it is as complex as patent literature, because we will not change the complexity of patent literature. This is nothing we will change, because this is a system immanent characteristic of patent literature. But especially when it's that complex on the databases, you need an upper layer which is over the databases that helps the user to dig exactly the right field, to help to find exactly what they are interested in. And what we learned throughout the years, reduce complexity. Everybody is in a hurry. Everybody is under pressure. Projects are beyond the schedules. You do not have the time to make things in a manner where you need to read books for using software. In other words,
Oh, I agree 100%. I just say that many experts, IP experts from the different fields, are very afraid when they are asked to have easy solutions, because then they come around and say, oh, no, 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 there is no easy solution, so this is very tricky, this is extremely complex. And when you don't understand how complex that is, first of all, you cannot admire me as the expert. Second, you wouldn't pay that much money for my software. And third, I think it doesn't make sense to talk with you anymore. So first of all, I have to teach you about the complexity of that issue. And I agree 100%. This is exactly not what people outside of the IP world want to hear. Okay.
Yeah, of course. I do not really agree. But yes, things which are too easy, and I mean, patent information retrieval definitely is not easy. At least you need to ask a good question, which is more or less a complex thing. It's not like Googling what is the best pizzeria in Munich. It's much more complex than using Google for whatever. Of course, you are right. And this is something which is also, we see sometimes some organizations, some classical patent searchers with many years of experience. They do patent search, they do information retrieval in a perfect way without artificial intelligence. They do. I mean, it's as I mentioned, it's an art. It's definitely an art, but it's not the broad market. It's not. It's not every person in an organization. And when we talk about complexity, we still need to talk about information retrieval. Yes, it's complex. Even with AI, it's sometimes complex. It's definitely because you need to ask the right question. But if we talk about information processing, understanding the content, connecting the dots between different documents, and so on, AI doesn't need to be complex. It's just a dialogue, helping to help
Okay.
people.
Yeah. So your mission is to make that thing easy, to reduce the entry barrier, to make it more useful for not just useful, to make it easier to access that kind of information. I mean, that is what Bill Gates said in that time, uh, um, mid 90s, that the information is there. So
Yes, it is.
Microsoft had never the vision to bring you new information. They just said the information is there. The problem is you don't have really factual access. And we want to make it easy for you. We want to reduce the barriers for entry, for access. And I understand what I understand, what you're saying is that the question, will in the future, will patent information be really create value? Will it be used from the right people outside of IP, where it can create that huge impact and so helpful for decision makers? So when we want to realize that, artificial intelligence is the key to do it.
Yes, of course. I would like to draw some picture which is a bit more general. If we talk about patents and the value creation from patents, there's at least one winner if it's granted and if it's a stable patent. It's the applicant. It's one winner. But the patent system has one fundamental point of view when it comes to teaching the public about the technical process, about technical knowledge, which means there's some deal. One organization, one person, doesn't matter a person, natural or a heuristic person, gets a patent granted, which is, in other words, a monopoly. There's a monopoly, and a monopoly is something which is quite bad in our economic system. Monopolies are bad. We learned this already in school. But by law, one organization gets a monopoly. The deal is the person teaches everybody else, every other person out there, how it is built, how it is created, what is the function, what is the problem we solve, and what is the technical solution for this problem. So, but there is this deal is in some way is broken because the public isn't really taught with this content, because you need to find the patent literature in order to be taught, and even you find it, it's sometimes very hard for everybody to understand the content. So AI helps, and this is some picture I really like, helps to kit the broken deal between patent applicants and the public. And this is something which I really like on AI.
Okay, got you. I mean, I don't agree on your definition of monopoly, because from the economic theory, monopoly means that there is a demand, okay, and only one is able to serve the demand. The question with most patents is that there is simply no demand, that are just patents, which means they give the owner an exclusivity for give certain rights to it, but they are meaningless because nobody wants what is patented there. But I agree 100% what you're saying at the end
Then
of
we
the
have
day.
then we have two losers.
But maybe even that information, even when it is useless from an economic standpoint, which is in most cases the case, it could be very relevant information in the hands of the right person, and we need to lower the barrier to get access to that kind of information that has an enormous macroeconomic value, obviously. So what AI can do here is it make really access to people who were so far afraid of complexity and costs and whatever. So another question which comes into my mind is you separated very precisely the the search part from the analytical part and say, okay, search has to be done, and then we have to make the analytics to create value in that bunch of information which we retrieved. The question which I have is, so of course there is I love the tool Perplexity AI. I'm used that nearly every day. It's a search engine, an AI based search engine, which tells you exactly where they found what, and you can see where it comes from. But at the end, of course, it answers in natural language. So it's, for me, it's the much better Google to a certain extent. Um, so which means you can use artificial intelligence also in for search issues, not ChatGPT, but well-trained other kind of AIs. So what is your experience? What would you say? What is the difference between AI based search tools and the classical search tools, which are at the end a terminal which with a search language, an SQL?
Um, let's let's talk about the technical differences first. I don't
Okay.
want to go too deep into technical things. Um, there's one thing which is discussed in the patent industry since around about, I think, 10 years or maybe 15 years: semantic searches. So
Hmm.
what is the purpose of semantic searches? You don't really need to find every synonym. You don't need to find every single word. You just put in something. And it doesn't matter if you call the thing a glass or a transparent device for including water. Doesn't matter how it's called. Semantic search means you find it either in any way. I hope so. It means this. And this is the biggest difference. I mean, AI search is decoupled in a specific way from the exact wording. The classical search is on the other way, and this is something we should always have in mind. And this is something which is, in my opinion, discussed in a totally wrong way. The classical Boolean search is in some way the only fully transparent and the fully reproducible search, and it's the only search which takes the whole document content into account. So this is a technical perspective. Let's talk about usability and the recall and precision things and aspects. AI search works different. AI search thinks broader. AI search assumes some aspects of your query, some aspects of your input. There's always an interpretation step, which means you need to make it understandable for the machine in the AI search. I think, and this is by now what we see in statistics, and we do a lot of statistics about the search quality, and we always do benchmarking against historic opposition searches from the EPO. Bringing together both worlds, AI patent search and classical patent search, is definitely unbeatable, because as humans we find some documents in the classical way, and as humans we try to help the AI to find similar documents, and bringing both together, it's definitely quite valuable. But this is something which is also time consuming. So future will probably be AI that uses AI.
Okay. So first of all, I agree 100%. I have another example from a different, completely different field. Do you know what a dogfight is with aircrafts, with fighter aircrafts? So
Yes.
it's a fighter aircraft against the fighter aircraft, okay?
Yeah.
And obviously, that are human beings who make the decisions in very short time under extreme conditions. So it's obvious that you come to the idea that you say, why we shouldn't train. I mean, on the other hand, it is a very limited decision space. Yeah. So first you want to survive. Second, you have simply your parameters, which are like they are, and you know what your machine can do. So optimize it and try to survive. And they trained in the U.S. Air Force. They trained artificial intelligence to in dogfights, and obviously you can. So it takes 5 to 7 years till a human being, a pilot, a fighter pilot, is really good in dogfighting. Okay, so imagine the costs. What they did is they trained over some weeks in
Mhm.
thousands of dogfights the artificial intelligence. And what turns out? It, obviously, the AI is faster. It makes harder decisions because an AI don't want to survive. They don't care. It is not it has no emotions in that in the whole game. And what it's doing is so a movement which human fighters never do is that it came directly from the opposite direction. And when two fighter jets with, let's say, 800 900 kilometers per hour go run to each other, it is a part of a second you make a decisions. So a human fighter pilot would never do that. This is very close to suicide. For the AI, it is the optimal solution. Okay, and what turns out, in 10 cases, 10 times the AI won. So this is about the future of fighter jets. Um, when it comes to retrieval, I would say
Mhm.
I'm looking for the optimal outcome. That's it. And I even don't care how it came out. I just
Mhm.
want it. That's it. And when a well trained AI can do that for me, thank you very much. Okay. It is not a question of living and die, but even in questions of living and die, sooner or later, we will trust the AI. That's it. So sorry for that to be maybe harsh or whatever, but for me this is the obvious solution. I have something from Ricardo, which he from time to time also publish on LinkedIn, and I can only recommend to all of you, when you're interested in that field, follow Ricardo Kali on LinkedIn. It's always great what he's publishing and posting, and he has a question or a comment and says, look, from his perspective, Boolean search is very convenient for professionals to tell the machine very precise what they would like to see. So because there is no interpreter between, yeah. So it's just I tell the machine exactly what I want, and the machine is doing that, and I know exactly what the machine is doing. I mean, but I wouldn't say this is black and white. It is simply he is correct, but it doesn't help, so to speak.
Yes. This is a other perspective on the difference between human pattern search and the AI-based pattern search. There's an interpreter between. Um, this is exactly what happens. And as I mentioned, I think, and this is something which is not that far away, not to teaser too much. The future is AI that uses AI. It's not today. Humans use AI tools, which means we bring our biased picture into our pattern search in the pattern search of the AI, and this is something which, in my opinion, is not necessary. There's a way in which AI uses AI, and what we see by now is based on 74 invalidation searches compared with EPO opposition searches. It's definitely better. It's faster, it's better, and it's unbiased. Um, Future is definitely on your side, Alex. There will be the dogfight in the patent industry between humans and AI, and I think the AI will someday in the future win the dogfight.
Yeah, I have no doubt about that. I absolutely know that. That's not human being. That's not a human business. We will see what our job is, but it is a little bit like try to compare as a bookkeeper with Excel. Don't do that. Don't compare with
Exactly.
Excel. Do something different. What Excel cannot do, but don't compete with Excel. That's it. Okay, thank you very much, Stefan. Unfortunately, we are over for today. The time is over. I have Ricardo has something, and I could assume that some others wanted to listen to us and have now some comments. So please stay with us in the after show party on LinkedIn
Yeah, pleasure.
um, to answer to it. Thank you very much for joining us for this show, and to all the others wherever you are on the globe. Enjoy your day, enjoy your night, and I'm happy when you are back to the next JPIP business talks. Bye bye. Thank you very much.
Bye bye. Thank you for having me.